As kids are either already back to school or are preparing to get back to school, there are a variety of things that go through the minds of parents everywhere. A lot of times it's the worry of what's going to happen with their kid in this new school year. Sometimes it's, are they going to be willing to get up and actually go to school? And if you're feeling stress, imagine how your children were feeling. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about some coping strategies that tend to do a fairly decent job with children who have autism. So, I'm so glad that you guys joined me today because we're going to talk about a subject that so many people, actually, I'd say the vast amount of people on this planet suffer with today, and it is anxiety and stress. And as you all know, our kids are like little sponges. And so when you're feeling stressed, of course, they're going to feel stressed. And then, of course, they have to go to school surrounded by other little people and big people who are stressed out as well. So there's never been a time that's more important than knowing some of the basic coping strategies. As we grow and mature into life, if we don't have some fairly decent coping strategies, we're going to have a really hard time maintaining focus and attention and activity and engaging socially, being able to make it through a day, going to work and maintaining the position that we need to as we get our job done or we don't. So, stress can get to be so significant that it can basically mean that you're going to lose your job. You could lose your family. You could lose parts of your education. And so we want to make sure that when our children are young, we give them the skills that they need because, it's sadly not anticipated that things are all of a sudden going to miraculously slow down and things and get less stressful, right? So we want to make sure that kids have some of those strategies because, we didn't pick up coping strategies just on our own, right? We read books, we watched movies, we listened to maybe Oprah, but somehow we picked up on those strategies. And since so much time during a school day is spent on getting them prepared for standardized testing and being able to maybe just keep their body more still in a chair than we did, for some of us anyway, when we were kids. I can say for myself that we had a lot of time on the playground when I was in elementary school. And then when I got home from school, I spent a lot of time outside. I was one of those kids where my mom had to say, okay, when the streetlights come on, that's when you come back inside. And so imagine the kids today who are not getting that physical activity. They're not outside riding bikes and climbing trees and jumping fences and maybe getting into some of the trouble that we used to get into. And they're sitting on their technology. So imagine their bodies and not being able to release all the stress and everything that happened to them during the school day. And then, of course, we compound it with social media. And particularly for our middle school and high school students, the stresses that they must be going through when it comes to how they look on social media. Do they have a presence on social media? Are they bullied through the use of social media? So we just want to make sure that our kids have some of these strategies. So one of the really great things that I talk to a lot of people on the spectrum that they really love is listening to music. So listening to music, I mean, it just calms. It sort of has a sedative effect because of what it does inside the brain. And so if you have like little ear pods or those big headphones are great because it muffles out so much of the external noises that seem to trickle in. And if you've got that kid who just needs to come home from school and put the headphones on, go sit in a beanbag chair and just listen to some music, use it. Inside the classroom, they can even have breaks to where they get done with an activity, then they can go over into the sensory area of the classroom where they can sit, put the headphones on, and just catch a breather, kind of regroup. For some kids, it's frankly just putting the noise canceling headphones on is enough to kind of regroup them. Go for a walk. I'm a walker, so I have my smartwatch and I monitor myself as I go for a walk. So at the end of a crazy day, for sure, for me, going for a nice brisk walk. So I do it for exercise purposes and to kind of reframe my brain. So I am going for a fast walk. You don't have to do that. Kids can go for a slow walk. I know when my son was in elementary school, primarily, the paraprofessional in the classroom could tell when he was approaching a time of getting frustrated, because we don't want to wait too long, because then those frustrations could very easily lead into a behavior that, the child is going to exhibit because they're trying to communicate with you that something is out of sorts. So you want to really be careful to watch for the signs of a kid who's getting frustrated or anxious or stressed out about something, because you want to teach them that when you're feeling that way, when it first starts coming on, there are things that we can do. So she would take him for a walk. And something that he loved, I had given her a tip on using a stopwatch. So she used the stopwatch because he wanted to kind of like beat the clock. And so she would say to him, "Ready, set, go." And he would take off running. I don't really know if it was down the hallway or outside on the back field, but he would do that. He would get all out of breath, and then he'd come running back. He wasn't actually racing anybody, but I guess he thought he was, because he loved it. He loved doing that activity, and it really helped him kind of just calm down, get regrouped, get focused off of what was stressing him out in the classroom. And it was gold for a long time. That kind of goes on along with my next one, which is exercise. Even still today, when my son is feeling some stress about something, he will go do some jumping jacks. He will go for a run or a walk. And, a lot of us do that. So it is helpful for humans in general. And again, like I said before, a lot of the kids today, they're not getting all the exercise that we used to get. And they live in a much more stressful world. So we really need to think about, how do we build exercise into a school day? If your child has occupational therapy at school, talk to the occupational therapist. A lot of times they have fabulous recommendations, and they get to know your kid. So they know if your kid needs more or less physical activity. And they could come up with some really great suggestions on, maybe it's little crab walks, bear crawls. I mean, they come up with all kinds of cute little names for these types of exercise activities to make the kid think, okay, this is going to be really cool because I get to pretend that I'm like an animal or somebody that I'm not. So talk to the OT. Practice deep breathing. Now, deep breathing is not hyperventilating. We've got to be careful with that. So you're going to breathe in, hold, and breathe out. There's some really great information you can easily find online about mindfulness and how to use breathing techniques to help you calm down. Schools also have counselors, and those counselors should all understand how to teach kids how to breathe. Don't assume that your kid is going to understand if you say, take a deep breath, because they might just think, okay, well, that's hyperventilating. We don't want them to do that. That is not calming. That's going to work the opposite way. So we want to make sure that somebody, that could be you if you know how to do it. If you don't, talk to the counselor at the school. Sometimes occupational therapists as well know how to do that. And of course, teachers, I would say that most teachers really should have some of these strategies in helping all of their students, because the stuff that works for kids with autism, it benefits everybody. That's why when we talk about inclusive education, it's not just for kids with autism. Those strategies are good for everyone. Fidget toys. So there's all kinds of little fidgety things. And again, I'm going to go to the OT because they can come up with some great stuff. And they kind of have their bag of tricks that they could bring in and try out with your child. That was another thing that my son used quite a lot in school. So he really needed to fidget with something. I've had some kids that just really like textures. And we have gotten creative where maybe a little piece like of carpet, a little carpet square, I'm talking like about a 3-inch by 3-inch size of carpet, and they glue it to the bottom of the desk in the classroom, and the student just rubs their fingers on it. I know that might sound kind of funny, but I have lots of kids who have had enormous benefit by that. There's also something called a wiggle seat, and it kind of looks like a whoopee cushion, but it's got like these little bumps in it, and it's not completely inflated, so that when you sit on it, you kind of can get some movement as you move from side to side. So those are pretty cool. For young kids who sit on the floor, so kindergarten, preschool classrooms, first grade, sometimes second grade, but not too much. By then they're generally, in the desk. But carpet squares where they can sit on their space on the floor so that they know where their space is. It kind of decreases the anxiety in thinking, where do I sit? Where am I going to sit? How am I going to sit? How do I stay in my own space? You just give them the square. Meditation. So this is, of course, going to be primarily for those who are older, who can understand some of the concepts that are wrapped up in meditation and how to regroup and think about something outside of what seems to be troubling you at the time. And that goes for sleep as well. If you're having a hard time sleeping, it's almost always because you're perseverating. You're thinking about something that you just can't get out of your head. And one of the best ways to address that is to think about something else. And I think that that's also from the people with autism I've spoken to, that's a lot of the reason why they like things over and over again. Could be songs, could be movies, could be thoughts, is because they are confident that that thought, that song, that movie is not going to be filled with surprises. It's going to be the same thing again. And there is a sense of relief and pleasure in that, in such a world that we live in that's crazy from minute to minute. Engaging in relaxing activities. So, because we're all different, what relaxes one person might not relax somebody else. So, I like exercise. So, that is relaxing to me. Or some of you listening to this are probably like, oh my goodness, that's not relaxing at all. So, it might be there's something called forest bathing, walking through a park. We have lots of great parks in this country. And no matter where you live, there's bound to be some type of area, whether it's an inner city park, or maybe if you're fortunate enough somewhere to live somewhere where you have easy access to a forest. Just take a walk. I know people who love birding, and that's really relaxing. They walk in the woods and they look for birds and they listen for birds. So whatever the activity is for you, think about implementing it throughout the course of the day as needed. And practice mindfulness, which kind of goes along with the meditation. So, again, there are tons of really great things online that you can find on mindfulness activities. Refer to your counselor at your school, refer to your occupational therapist, some teachers, because there's some really great things that all kids and adults can benefit from. So that's all I got for you guys today. I hope that you got something out of this. Remember to tap into your resources, though. Nobody is in this journey alone, and we need to count on the resources that are around us, and that will make your life a lot stressful as well. Okay, so continue to join us. We're going to be bringing on something called No Limits Global, which we are super excited for you guys to have. We are bringing together incredible speakers in the field of autism from literally around the globe. It's going to be tremendous. And in just a couple weeks, you will see a notification about that and how you can participate. All right, so good to be with you guys today, and I'll see you next time.